It's hard for me to get my mind around Christmas. Not the tree and the lights and the gifts and all that. That's the easy part. No, I mean the part about God becoming human. That's what Christians call a mystery, something that we'll never fully comprehend, no matter how hard we try. The mystery we celebrate at Christmas is the Incarnation, which means that God became human. Now just think about how ridiculous that sounds. God became a person. In much of ancient Greek philosophy, as in Plato and Aristotle, God was pure abstraction, completely above the everyday existence of men and women. Even in the Old Testament, which tells the story of God's relationship with humanity, men and women were kept at arm's length from God. In the book of Exodus, when Moses asks God what his name is, God says, "I am who I am." In other words, none of your business. But on the first Christmas, God entered our world as a human being. And not just any human being, but a baby, the most vulnerable state possible. When Jesus was born, he was totally dependent on Mary and Joseph for everything. God depended on us. He was also born into a poor family. We're so used to that Christmas story that we forget that God could have come into the world in any way God wanted to. For example, into some great, wealthy, ruling family. That would have made sense, right? To really have some power and influence and make sure people paid attention, right? Instead, God came to a poor family in a little nowhere village in Galilee. And he grew up in a real family with real struggles. Of course, Mary and Joseph were saints, but the rest of Jesus' family, his cousins and aunts and uncles, were just regular people. So they had their challenges and struggles and problems. God lived in a real family. Then God worked as a carpenter, a noble but regular job, just like one of us. We don't relate to a God who is pure abstraction or who asks us to keep a distance. Instead, we relate to a God who experienced all that we do and who understands us, not simply because he's divine and knows all things, but because he's human and has experienced all these things. God did all this, was born, became vulnerable, grew up in a family, worked for 18 years, suffered and died, just so God could be near us, and just so we could be near God. That's how much God loves us, and that's what I'll never fully understand. So Christmas is a mystery, but it's the most beautiful one I know. From all of us here at American Media, Merry Christmas.